fraud at this present time in our country, looking at where we are and the state we are in now, allocating 990 million naira daily. You see, if you do that, if you multiply that by 20 days, that means we have 4 weeks, and they go to school 5 times in a week. That's like 20 days. You see, we would have spent about 19.8 billion naira just on feeding children. How realistic is that monthly? So I don't think it's really, to me, I see it more as an avenue for some persons to cut away with money. I think investing more on infrastructure and human being is more important, because the teachers, if you look at what has been happening, I don't want to deviate from where we are. I don't want to go into maybe ASU going on strike and the rest. If you look at our primary schools, the nature of our primary school is really poor, really appalling. Why I earlier said it was fraud, because I've been to, when this program started, I was opportune with some persons to visit some primary schools to see if truly this was a functional program. Even when they said they came to Abuja here, believe me, I went to some public schools. There was nothing like that. So you can imagine when they say they are using such amount of money daily. It will now bring you to this. Why are the state of school very poor? Go to most of the primary schools here in FCT and the neighboring states here. You discover they don't even have chairs to sit down, and you're spending such amount of money according to what they say on feeding. Is it not better you even empower these parents to be able to take care of their children, than you aiming that you feeding them will enable them to go to school? I think WFP, that's a World Fooding Program, in Kenya. They started in Kenya as far back as 1980, and I think sometime in 2016 they hand over the program to the Kenyan government to continue at that. These are how people partner. If you go down, I think we actually involved the World Fooding Program too in Nigeria in this case. And at the end of the day, we don't know if we are the persons funding them or they are actually helping out in these things. Because other countries, when they come in, they actually do the funding. But here we keep hearing figures going high on this feeding program. If you look at the top 10 countries that have one of the best educational systems, like primary education system in the country, Nigeria is not even ranked number 15. It's not even ranked number 20 in the world. As of 2019, Nigeria was ranked 25 behind Rwanda. If you check today, Rwanda is far ahead of Nigeria. I think the number 1 country is Seychelles. I know we may bring the argument of population, but that has nothing to do with our fat budgets that we always allocate, more especially for other things like education and the rest, where we don't see where those money are being. Countries like South Africa, Mauritania, Namibia was 10th. As of was it 2019 or so, they were 10th. This year they are 9th in the world, in the African ranking. So you discover this money it doesn't really say good. It's as if you're taking money to throw somewhere, because if the money is really working, I think we should come back and sit down and look at this feeding program. What is this feeding program doing for us? Is it even taking us anywhere? Go around, you still see people, out of school children everywhere. Is there any task force being enforced that, okay, these children walking around doing all these things, are they in schools? No. So how come it doesn't encourage these students going to school? I think they should invest more on infrastructure. And I will, last year 2021, Rwanda actually the private schools were shutting down, just because the state of the art primary schools the government actually built. Private schools were shutting down. Here in Nigeria, we know if you want to get state of the art facility, is private schools. But there, because of the structures, private schools were shutting down, because people started removing their children from the private school to the public schools. So why can't it happen here in Nigeria? It can happen here. Because if you go back, you discuss some state government too. We are even doing the food program too. In states like Kano, they are doing the food program too. So you cannot imagine if the federal government is doing this and the state government is still doing same program. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. So I think they should invest more on infrastructure and otherwise, so that if these schools are of good standards, bet to me that people who prefer their children going to public school than taking them to private school where you know you're going to pay more on same, maybe you may not even get the best education. See, if they start paying teachers very well, they invest more on these things, you discover the rate of teaching. Some of us during my primary school, I was opportunity to attend a private school and a public school. Bet to me, I'll tell you, when we attended, it was very superb. It was very superb. There were so many things I learned that I was not opportunity to learn at the private school. But today is otherwise. We just look at the private school, the public school is meant for the poor people, the private is meant for the rich people, which is not supposed to be so. I don't think it helps in any form or any way. I'll tell you something. In Libya is the 10th rated country when it comes to primary education now, currently in the continent. There's a constitutional where normal, this is compulsory. It's compulsory for this free education for the age of 6 to 11. We were doing 6 to 9, so they're doing 6 to 11 compulsory. And when they say compulsory, is compulsory. Namibia, it's a thing that it's a compulsory thing that every household has this formal education. It's a compulsory thing, not like it's a thing that you bargain that this is my child, this is not my child. You must take your child to school in Namibia. So if constitutionally this is the right of a common Nigerian, so there is no need for you to add any. There should not be incentives to make the children go to school. If the way we are today, I think it all boils down to the economy of the country. It has hampered very well on the masses, where we feel little things like foodies are attractive. To me, it should not be, because if you empower somebody, if I can take care of my children, I don't think you telling me because of free food they'll go to school. They don't need to go to school because of food. They go to school because they want to learn, because they want to get quality education, because they want to become leaders of tomorrow. So this has helped in no way in improving the intakes of children into school. I think we should borrow from other countries who are doing actually better in this aspect and see what they have done different. If I will advise the president or whoever is in charge of this, maybe the minister of education. I think there's a separate ministry handling this food program. They should channel that. They should work in synergy with the Ministry of Education. If it's possible, get a task force. There should be a task force. It's another mode of creating employment. Get a task force that people because they feel this is my child, he needs to go and say, he needs to hawk for me, he needs to do this for me, and then if he goes to school, what will he get? Is he not Nigeria? This one that finished school, what is he doing? These are the common thinking of a common Nigerian. So I think it will be better if they work in synergy to see how these things can be tackled. If you go to the street, you see a child hawking when he's supposed to be in school, ask the child, where is his parent? Take the child to his parents. If the parents, if possible, even arrest the parents. See, if this free education works here in Nigeria, bet you me, and the free education works, and there's a task force to it, you will get more children going to school than hawking, than being on the street. You don't need food for people to go to school. You don't need it for people to go to school. Because when we were growing up, apart from my affirmative age, that when I was before, that was till like nursery 3 or so. When I went to a public school, I was not taking food to school. Then we used to do a morning and afternoon section, something like that. I was not taking food to school. But you go to school, you stay, you learn, you come back home happy. Because why? You interact, you learn, you still play with your mates, you still have friends. So there was not necessary for us to actually get incentive for us to go to school. Maybe they want to do this, they want to do that. You don't do it. I think this free education should be something that is being enforced. And when it's being enforced, there should be a follow-up to it. There should be a task force that will monitor and watch that this thing is actually going on. These schools are actually following up to the letter. I'll give you examples. I went to a primary school. I went to a primary school somewhere in Ado. That's in Nasarawa. That's New Cairo local government. I just went there, just doing their normal school period to see what happens and all of you. Do you know I spent 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours watching at some like 2, 3, 4 classes? No teacher could come in. Yes, no teacher could come in for like 2 to 3 hours. No teacher came in. The students were making noise, running up and down, up and down, up and down, misbehaving, and the principal was somewhere upstairs or somewhere in his office, very relaxed. And at the end of the day, I called one of the people. I was like, is this how you guys always have free time, free period for this long hours? That it's when the teachers come, maybe when the coppers come. You can imagine, we know the coppers are supposed to assist the teachers and not for them to spearhead the teachers. So it's when they even come. So if they don't even come, the teachers don't even care what happens, or the who is in charge of the school doesn't care. And this is something we're supposed to have a monitoring team going from school to school from a particular period. You don't need to tell the principal or the headmaster that you're coming. You just need to come on your own and see how things is being run. If I tell you I'm coming to your place, definitely you need to clean your house. If I take you unawares, I'll see who you really are. And that's to tell you what happens with most of these schools. This is what happens with most of these schools. There's a primary school in Caro here in FCT. It's opposite the market. If you go there, most of the teachers do business. So they just come in the morning, drive in, greet themselves, park somewhere, gossip, and they leave. They may come give their notes to students to copy. How does a student copy for a fellow student? What do you want that student to actually impact on this fellow student at this particular level? This is where you get your best education you can get. If you miss it here at the lower level, at this primary school, how do you think you can get it correct? You can't get it right anywhere. Because what you learn here, that's how your brain starts to function. So if your brain is being programmed to function very poorly, you end up maybe involving in exam malpractice because you may end up not passing. Funny enough, these days, we don't have people who repeat classes again. Everybody passes. As from one you just pass, you pass till you write your WAEC. Nobody repeats classes again. I remember then it was competition because you need to do well for you to even go to the next class. And even though you are promoted, if you are not within the first 10, you feel bad. But today, it's just a normal thing. You pay your school fees, you just sit, you write exam. When you are promoted, you go to the next class. Whether you fail or not, is a continuous process. This should be checked. That's why we have ministers. That's why we have ministries. That's why we have people, state commissioners, for these things to be checked. If they don't check, sometimes I wonder the thing is. It has gotten to a level where our Ministry of Education, the minister is more or less focused on what happens with the tertiary institution. But they are forgetting that the primary school is actually the bedrock of everything. This is where it starts. So I think the government really need to do more in that regard. They need to really do more to see how they can make these things, this infrastructure, this institution stand and work functional. Because if we get it right here, we get good leaders tomorrow. If we get it bad at this level, forget it, we don't get it good leaders. The country we are in now, the country we are in, the structure has been spoiled already. Be it the legislator, be it a political appointee, they just care about themselves. There's no political way to do anything. There is no just political way to do anything. But to me, come down to what we are. We're in this political season now. Everybody's trying to campaign. Those who are going for uh, Senate, government, and those who want to contest for the seat of the presidency. Nobody is talking about our education. Nobody is talking about what happens in the education sector. Everybody is talking about you make Nigeria better, you make Nigeria great, you make Nigeria great. Where does it start from? It starts from here. How do you produce good leaders? It's from here. Have there been, how many times have the Senate sat down in the chambers to actually deliberate on the educational sector? Since this Senate, this present senators came in, how many times have they sat down to deliberate on educational sectors? Let's go back to House of Reps. How many? None of them. Just when ASU goes on strike, that's when you hear noise. Maybe because they have children who are affected, or relatives who are affected directly or indirectly. That's when they talk. If it doesn't affect them, nobody talks. The whole work, the president can't do the whole job. That's why he has people who to do this. That's why he has SAs, that's why he has ministers, that's why he has so many political appointees, so they can do these things for him, bring him feedbacks, bring him information. I will not be surprised to even, I may not be even surprised if the president comes out tomorrow to tell you that he doesn't even know if ASU is on strike. It's possible. Let's tell ourselves the truth. It's very, very possible. It has happened before. It's very, very, very possible. I think we need to have leaders that can be held accountable. That's where it starts from. The Senate president has an essay on education. How many times has that essay visited the Ministry of Education on the purpose of a common man outside their own interest? Maybe the normal Ghana must go, they go around with. How many times? How many times have the essay gone out of his way to even check? Oh, let me even check primary schools within my environment. Let me even go back to my constituency and check primary schools and see the state they are in. None of them. We have Senate Committee on Education. You don't hear them say anything. When it comes to ASU, because they know it's a win-win game, let's come and deliberate. We deliberate. Everybody gets what he wants to get. Let me tell you, without fear or favor of anybody, even ASU, what the whole noise they are making is for their own selfish interest. It's for their selfish interest. Nobody cares about the common man. Nobody cares about these students. How many times have NAS come out to speak? There's a time they had a confrontation with the Minister of Labor and Productivity. Yes, it was a good one. Everybody allotted that particular confrontation. I expected follow-up to that. They would have visited the Minister of Education. These things need to be taken head-on, because we can't continue to go round same cycle, go round same stories. These things need to work. If these people are not being paid well, they will not attend to us very well. It's just like when you stand up hungry, you want to go to work. You may end up not even going to work. That's the truth. You may get tired and just sit somewhere. Or you be, why am I going to work today? I'm not being paid safe. These things need to be looked into. I think we need to, I just hope 2023, anybody that comes in 2023 gets people who will do the job, people who he will be able to hold accountable for issues that concern the common Nigerian. If you ask me, I don't think 100 naira will feed the child, because I went through the programs or the way they channeled or how they were spending the money. They said cooks were being given 10 naira. If you look at it, how will you give a cook 10 naira? You're feeding the child 100 naira, giving the cook 10 naira. There's 20 naira for something else or so. 100 naira, we know between me and you, even before the collapse of this dollar to this period, we know it can't do anything. We know it can't do anything. It's just like we have, they said the poorest of poor in Nigeria is supposed to live above $150 a day. But me and you know it doesn't happen even before now. Now let's say a dollar is in 530. So if you're using $100, you should. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That means you say you're feeding the child. That's like if you check, you're using about 15 to 20 cents, like 15 to 20 cents to feed the child. Here in Nigeria, where we know the cost of things, if you go to the market, no matter the local rice they tell you, you still buy it at the rate of like 700, 700. So let's say you're using that for maybe 30 children, for example. Let's say you want to buy tomatoes of this food. You discover this whole thing doesn't add up. That's where it comes down to we telling ourselves the truth. Is this project even real? Is this project even working? How are they sharing these things? How is this money being allocated? How is this foodstuffs being gotten? How do they even? Okay, let me tell you. Let's even go. Let's state the fact. If we are spending such money on feeding, that means our Nigerian farmers are making huge sum of money from this particular program, because definitely we are patronizing Nigerian products. But how many Nigerians farmers today can boast of them benefiting from this? If you are spending that huge sum of amount of money every day, it should affect the common life of a farmer. That's to say, the agricultural ministry is supposed to partner with these people too, to see how these things gets to this money is being reinvested here in the country. But how, if you check every now and then, the cost of fertilizer is going high, everything is going high, and you say you're using 100 naira to feed the child. Where are you getting this food from? Is it that you buy them? Where do you buy them from? If you're buying from where? It should still be here in Nigeria. The money should still be in circulation here in Nigeria. But I don't think that is the case here. I don't think that is the case here. Because we at the end of the year, we will be spending about hundreds of billion, over 100 billion on feeding of children. And we keep complaining of money, we keep borrowing, and we come back to those statistics of 100 naira a child to 10 million children. Okay, let's say you're using 100 naira per child for 10 million Nigerian children. You discover the money they are calling, the money they are saying, and the figure it will give you. It's different. It's very, very, very different. If you check the whole thing, it doesn't add up. 100 naira by 10 million should be giving you some 1 billion. And they say they use 990 to do this. Okay, let's say, okay, maybe because they're saving 10 million naira, because since it's bulk and the rest, they're saving 10 million naira. How is that feasible? How is that possible? Okay, we have about 6,125 public schools in Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. About 6,000 something in that figure, in that range in Nigeria. Now, if we multiply the children there and we say we want to actually feed them, how do you think it's possible? It's not possible. There are some schools you visit. Private primary schools you visit, you have over 3, 4, 5,000 pupils. How do you go around sharing? Is it that there's a committee that is being set out that they allocate this money to in the state to actually do the feeding or do the cooking for the day or whatever? How do they do the allocation? I think there should be clear definition about this whole thing. There have not been any clear definition. Coming up with figures, coming up with statistics, it doesn't just add up. Because you're saying you're using 100 naira. Yes, it's possible I can just quote any money and get any figure. I can tell you, and we use 500 naira to cook for so persons, number of persons. It doesn't add up. There should be people who are held responsible. I think think the Minister of Social Development or so should actually come out and say, like, okay, in this state, this is the state coordinator, this is how much we have released for this state, this is how much we released for this state, this state. Then we'll now look at, okay, how many public schools are in that state? What have they been able to do? Is this program actually working? If it's not working, they should be held responsible. Not for you to come, they come to say this today, tomorrow they say 100 naira for feeding. There is no way it works. No way 100 naira will feed a child. There is no just way 100 naira feeds a child. I know there was a time they said they want to be cooking one egg for a child Wednesdays or so. I think that was it last 2 years? Wednesdays. 100 naira. Let's say you're buying in poultry. Maybe they are even selling for, let's say they are selling for 15 naira. Let's even say 15 naira. So the child just come to school Wednesday and eat just one egg. If you discover what they have said and what they are giving us, it doesn't add up. But at times, what will you do? You just have to follow up with the statistics and let things be, because I think it's even hard time for us to start holding these people accountable. Yes, you can't just come and look at people, you want to tell them things, you want to fool them. There's no way a child will eat one egg a day and survive for that number of hours, and you say you're feeding them. That's I'm saying the egg is being bought at 15 naira. That means the child, you just give him egg, you don't give him water. Nothing. Because a pack of sachet water now is 20 naira. Let's say it's even 10 naira. So you give him one egg, one pack of sachet water. That's 16 naira. So he just eats one egg for that Wednesdays and drink water. Definitely there should be something you add to the food. That's to say it's not even visible for that 100 naira. And you say you are paying those cook 10 naira. There's a 20 naira they pay for what again? That's about that. Let's say we're using that Wednesday, the one egg thing they say they will give, and this, that's about 18 naira. That means other days you spend above 100 naira to feed the child. Because the 10 naira they give the cook is 10, I think it's 10 naira per child. Yes, it's 10 naira per child. I don't think I will cook for 100 people for 10 naira. It's 10 naira per child. And I think with what you're saying, you're spending 130 naira per child. So if you're saying you're spending 100 naira per child, that means you're spending like 70 naira on the child feeding. You're using 30 naira for other logistics and payment. That's 100 naira. Where does it work? It doesn't work anywhere. That's to tell you two things happens. Is that they're lying to themselves, lying to themselves, trying to deceive Nigerians, or it has just been a whole scam all along. It has just been a whole scam all along, because it's not possible.